Welcome, everyone, to episode 48 of the Southern Conservative Podcast. My name is Ty. Something unusual happened in the Senate today. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee voted to send a positive recommendation to the Senate floor for Mike Pompeo to be Secretary of State. Rand Paul, a Republican member of the committee, initially said he was not going to vote for Pompeo. Johnny Isakson of Georgia, another Republican, was away giving a eulogy at a funeral for a friend. The chairman of the committee, Bob Corker, decided to vote on his behalf. The vote came down 11-10 along party lines. Democrats raised objections about sending a positive recommendation to the floor when one of the votes came from a senator who was not present. In other words, in order to send a positive recommendation to the Senate, you can only count the votes from the senators in the committee who are present for the vote. So that made it a 10-10 tie. Corker had threatened to wait until late in the evening for Isakson to return and vote again. He asked if there would be any Democrats willing to change their vote from no to present to get a favorable recommendation for Pompeo. Chris Coons, Democrat from Delaware, changed his vote to present, and the final vote was 10-9-1. So now the Senate will vote to confirm Pompeo, and it's expected he will be confirmed. There are some red state Democrats who are up for re-election this year who have said that they will vote for Pompeo, and that will be enough to go along with Republicans to confirm Pompeo to be the next Secretary of State. Now, this display with Pompeo highlights the obstructionist tactics of the Democrats. Pompeo could barely get a positive recommendation from the committee. Mitch McConnell said he was going to take up Pompeo for a vote even if the committee sent a negative recommendation. But just look back at previous secretaries of state. John Kerry, Obama's second Secretary of State. He was unanimously approved in the committee, and the Senate voted to confirm him 94-3. Hillary Clinton, Obama's first Secretary of State, the committee approved her 16-1, and she was confirmed by the Senate 94-2. Rex Tillerson, who in my opinion is no Mike Pompeo, and I was never thrilled about Tillerson being Secretary of State, and I think Pompeo will better serve Donald Trump than what Tillerson did. Anyway, Tillerson was approved by the committee 11-10, and was confirmed by the Senate 56-43. Pompeo will be confirmed with a similar margin. The Democrats do not want this man to be Secretary of State simply out of their hatred for Donald Trump. They have pointed to his religious beliefs that he won't be able to be received well from the Islamic world. Cory Booker raised objections about his views on gay marriage. Tim Kaine, during the committee deliberations, said he's not diplomatic enough, despite having been to North Korea over Easter weekend to kickstart discussions about denuclearizing that country. And Kim Jong-un announced he is ending missile tests. Trump is on the verge of denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. But apparently that's not good enough for Tim Kaine. The bottom line is Democrats will find any excuse to not approve Trump's nominees, whether for his cabinet or judicial appointments. They would rather have the country suffer than for Trump to be able to effectively govern. All sorts of reasonable objections could have been raised about Hillary or John Kerry, but they still made it through the Senate virtually without objection. And as Democrats make their objections known, they are establishing the platform that will be part of their progressive agenda for the next election. So the Democrats' no votes today serve two purposes: to prevent the president from governing, and thankfully Republicans have a slim majority. Imagine if the Democrats controlled the Senate. Trump wouldn't be able to get any of his nominees through. And the second reason is to prepare themselves for the midterms and ultimately set the Democratic platform for the next presidential election. The Democrats are trying to look at the long game here as well. Then we had some tragic news today. First, a young man shot up a Waffle House in Nashville a few days ago. Police nabbed him today. And this is a very disturbed individual. Clearly, he had mental health issues going on. In the past, he believed Taylor Swift was harassing and stalking him. In his delusional thoughts, he believed she hacked his Netflix account and wanted to meet him at a Dairy Queen. He went to a public swimming pool in Illinois where he was only wearing his underwear, trying to coax lifeguards to fight him. He recently was nabbed at the White House after he tried to meet Donald Trump. This is where the story gets really bizarre. The Secret Service then confiscated his guns only to give them back to his father, who then gave them to his son. One of those guns he used to kill innocent people at a Waffle House. Then there was an attack on Monday in Toronto, Canada, in which a man driving a van jumped onto the sidewalk and drove down that sidewalk reportedly at 35 to 40 miles an hour, mowing down pedestrians. 10 people were killed, 15 injured. Police say this individual does not have any relationship with radical Islamic groups, but they cannot rule out terrorism as a possible motive at this time. Police say this was a deliberate and intentional act, so in my mind, this is an act of terror. It's pretty clear, it seems, this man wanted to mow down these individuals. It's a tragic event, and our thoughts and prayers are with all of those who were killed and injured, and their families, and the entire city of Toronto. The same goes for the Nashville shooting as well. And it just goes to show you that it's not just the United States that can harbor homegrown terrorism. Sadly, it appears that there are people with terroristic intentions living in Canada. Now, Canada does not have the death penalty, so the perpetrators of terrorism in Canada are not able to suffer the same way their victims do. We'll see if Canada takes steps to change that. But you just never know, folks, what people will do or what weapons people will use if they want to kill people. The left has been calling for gun control, but we just saw today in Canada that a person can use a van and kill 10 people. No guns involved. And many, many more Americans and Canadians own cars and trucks and vans than they do guns. So are we going to ban cars now? How about knives? Knives are used to kill people. You know, I think back to Nashville at the Waffle House shooting. If the suspect didn't get those guns back from his father, would he have been able to get his hands on guns somehow? Given his past offense at the White House, he shouldn't have been able to purchase a gun, but who's to say that he wouldn't have gotten a weapon from a friend or a family member? He did get his guns back from his father. I'm shocked that the Secret Service wound up giving the guns to the father. But at any rate, there are countless ways that this man could have gotten his hands on a weapon. Legislation won't stop gun violence, just as legislation against cars or vans won't stop van violence, if you want to call it that. No one would even consider putting forth van legislation. That's how ridiculous it is. But the bottom line is, evil is among us, and evil people will find ways to kill others and use whatever weapon they can get their hands on, whether it's a conventional weapon like a gun or a knife or a car or a van or a truck. I want to remind everyone to please check out my Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/Southern Conservative. That's facebook.com/Southern Conservative. There you will find links to conservative news articles on stories you may not hear about in the mainstream media. Plus, if you follow the news feed, you'll find links to the daily podcasts. Be sure to also subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the notifications bell so you'll be alerted each time a new podcast has been posted. New podcasts are posted daily, Monday through Thursday. I want to finish with the ridiculousness that is the Michael Cohen investigation and the vindictiveness of the left when it comes to silencing conservative voices. It appears on its face that this investigation broke all sorts of ethical standards. The special counsel, whose reason for existence was to investigate Trump-Russia collusion, and that whole house of cards is falling fast, as I highlighted on Friday. So Mueller finds some sort of evidence of payments to Stormy Daniels, and whether that money came from campaign funds. There are reports that Mueller discovered payments received from a Russian with ties to Ukrainian steel industry. It's bizarre, and it's so far removed from Trump-Russia collusion. And so the FBI raids Cohen's office, home, and hotel room since his home was being renovated. And Cohen was forced to reveal the name of one of his clients, and that name was Sean Hannity. Now, Hannity maintains that he was never a client in the traditional sense, in that he asked Cohen for some legal advice but never retained Cohen for a legal purpose. Similar to how I explained to you before, how people who have friends or know people who are professionals and will ask their opinion about this or that without formally hiring that professional. I've told you how people ask me all the time about drugs outside of what I do in my work at the hospital. I mean, it's almost daily that I get asked questions about drugs. But at any rate, Hannity mentioned that the legal advice had to deal with real estate investments. If you're a regular listener of Hannity's radio show, or if you watch his TV program on Fox News, you know that he chooses to invest in real estate instead of the stock market. So the left spent the entire weekend digging up Hannity's involvement in real estate investments. And now there are accusations that Hannity received preferential treatment with the Department of Housing and Urban Development concerning loans that were made while Obama was president. Various outlets have pointed to Hannity praising Ben Carson, who is now the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Hannity released a statement on Monday in which he says that he is not responsible for where the money goes. Someone else manages his money, the way investment companies manage investments for people every day. But instead of investments in stocks, Hannity's investments are in real estate. He also said he never discussed HUD loans with anybody at HUD. Folks, this is all an attempt to dig up as much dirt as they can about Hannity because he is the most popular personality on Fox News. His show has incredible ratings. His radio show is on over 500 radio stations. He's on satellite radio. He's a big conservative voice that the left wants to shut up because Hannity continues to expose the left every day. The same tactics were used recently to get Laura Ingraham off the air, which failed. There have been numerous attempts over the years to get Rush Limbaugh off the air. The left cannot stand that they do not have a complete monopoly on the media. And thanks to those on radio and TV, and on conservative news websites and blogs, the left continues to be exposed for the hypocrites they are, for just how un-American they are, and how their policies will turn this great country into a socialist utopia that has never been able to exist anywhere socialism has ever been attempted. Sean will get through this, but none of this would have come about if it wasn't for the rogue tactics of Robert Mueller. Trump has now got Rudy Giuliani to join his team, and he supposedly is going to negotiate an end to this investigation with Robert Mueller. The Democrats have backed themselves into a corner now after hanging on to Trump-Russia collusion for over a year and believing that it actually happened. And after nothing has come to fruition, and after numerous criminal referrals have been made, and Comey has been on his book tour, continuing to talk when more and more evidence has come about that puts Comey in a very different light than what his book does. The house of cards is coming down and coming down very fast. The next big bombshell will probably come out in the Inspector General's report due out next month that will highlight the FBI and DOJ's investigation into Hillary's emails. More damning information on Comey and McCabe will surely come out in that report. And that's it for today, folks. I'll be back on Tuesday for another podcast. Have a great day, everybody.